Okay, so just slotting in with gravity. So for that just means getting the spine vertical, really. And for that, we just need to bring the sacrum forwards a little bit. So the legs just need to bend and soften. And just moving from leg to leg. So let's just try and get it complete. So just try and move as far as you can to the side. Yeah. So as I settle into this foot, I really am on the outside edge of the foot. So the inside edge is coming up, so I have to press down with the big toe to keep the big toe on the ground. And just feel the position of the sacrum. And so just marking time, the passage of time with the breathing or the movement rather than with the train of thought. So in Tai Chi, we tend to use movement. So the only way you'll find the moving more interesting than what's going on up here is if you fall in love with movement, is if you find it really enjoyable and engaging. So just feeling that soft passage from one foot to the other, just feeling the leg as a spring, just bouncing you back. It fills up and then it springs like a piece of rubber. Yeah, so we want to feel the legs not just as instruments that keep us up away from the ground, but as like attachments. They actually grab the ground and attach us to the ground. So when they can behave like that, then they will naturally just drain sort of excess tension from this area, from the Dantian hip area. But of course, they need to be strong enough first. And then gradually, as we repeat it, so with repetition, as long as the mind isn't getting bored and wandering, then the passive element will want to become a little bit active. Yeah. So the passive leg, the leg that's straightening here, wants to start pulling. And that's just a natural thing. It's not something you have to do, because it will naturally want to come into the picture. And this is very important, because what you're doing is drawing the sacrum and the spine down the leg, which is exactly what we want. And so for this, we need to get a little bit of a handle on the hamstrings. So it's the hamstring that's bending. So this muscle here. So we just want to feel that getting hard and tense, just for the time that it's pulling, and then it releases. So here, pull. So it's only just for a moment, but it's enough for there to be like a pulse in the muscle. Yeah, so it's a muscle that pulls. We're interested in the muscles that pull. Same way we're interested in the Dantian or the muscles in the back. And if you're pulling yourself up a rope, then it's these muscles here, it's the latissimus dorsi, that are actually doing the work. Yeah, so the muscles that in most people are quite undeveloped, the back, the belly, the hamstrings, they're the ones we'd like to bring a little bit of awareness into. So the leg is bending, and that's pulling at the ground, but it's also pulling me into the foot. And it just starts to round out the lower back so that your bum doesn't stick out. And also, as you start pulling, it takes you down, whereas when you push with the leg, it will tend to bring you up. So I get sucked down the leg, but it brings, my spirit comes up with this hand and my body goes down with the other hand. This is what's interesting about it. Yeah, so this shape of holding the ball that we take up so often in Tai Chi, it's built into this pulling with the leg, pulls the body down and it activates the spirit. Because your spirit is sort of outside your body. Your spirit is with the foot that's pulling. So the spirit is beckoning to your body to join it. So my spirit is already here and it's just pulling the body towards it. Yeah. And you just need to, let your mind become quiet within the exercise, and then you'll just realize just how enjoyable it is. This, especially this sense of sort of tearing the body out of itself. Yeah. So it's like the tug here is almost like leaving an image of me behind. So you get this sense of sort of tearing, which is actually really, it's an interesting sensation. So you have to really feel it, and you have to enjoy the feeling, otherwise you won't do it. So just the sheer enjoyment of the body working well, working better than it's used to. Yeah, so I'm sucking my body towards my foot, but I'm also sucking the air in. So this is the in breath. So, and then an out breath, and then an in breath. Okay. And now let's just stand for a sec. So just feel the outside edges. So feel the container. Yeah, so you are contained by a container. So that container is really ward off. So ward off in the arms and in the legs. So part of your mind is with the container, part of your mind is the container, and part of your mind is within the container in the center. So again, in Taoism, there's two of everything. As Spinoza said, it doesn't matter how thin you slice it, there's always two sides. Yeah. So you've got this and you've got this. Yeah. So you're containing your energy. It's not just dispersing infinitely, it's contained. Yeah? Yeah, so just feel yourself pushing the ground in order to keep yourself up. Yeah. So these muscles are working quite hard to actually maintain this bent-legged posture. Yeah. So never locking the knees, otherwise the energy can't flow through them. But also feeling the earth wanting you. So the earth is trying to pull you down. Yeah? It wants you just to sort of break into pieces and just dissolve and seep into it. Yeah. So there's this pull, and it's not just like an impersonal pull of gravity. It's more personal. It's almost like there's something coming up you and just tugging. And that is tending to make you sort of liquid. Yeah, it's tending to make you gooey. Whereas the one that's pushing up, you are actually trying to maintain some sort of solidity by pressing against the ground. Yeah. So always these two sides that we just get, we equilibrate, we don't let them cancel each other out. We keep them resonating together. Okay, and now let's just breathe it. Yeah, so the lungs are breathing, but more importantly, the spine is breathing. So the spine is whipping back, the head is whipping back a little bit, and then it whips forwards. And just feeling the tail. So as your head whips back, the tail goes back a little bit, and as the head comes forwards, the tail comes under a little bit. Now, so the adjustments in the tail are minute, so you have to be really quite sensitive. The head is moving quite big movements, yeah, because it's the furthest from the feet. The feet are stable, and the head is got the most movement in it. The head and the hands. Yeah, so as you lean forwards, it's like from the Min Meng, it's splitting. So the spine beneath the Min Meng is doing this, and the spine above the Min Meng is doing this. And then here the Min Meng is pulling the lower spine and the upper spine down into it. So this is how the breathing is happening. Now just feel the movement. So rather than being with the generation of the movements too much, just be with the actual movement and the pleasure of the movement. Like you were on a swing and someone was pushing you, so you didn't have to worry about the movement, you could just enjoy it. So here you're stretching the elastic, and then here you're controlling the recoil. Yeah, so as far from mechanical movement as possible. So just feel the way the two movements, the two phases bleed into each other. Yes, my belly is already pulling before I finish expanding. My back is already pulling before I finish contracting. So it's very organic. So it's of life rather than of the machine. So sort of the body, corporeal. So we want the body to be able to take the mind into heightened states, into like trance states. So you need to be able to keep the mind with the job and also exercise immense patience. Okay, so let's just bring it back to riding horse. Again, just feeling the container, but the container is soft. You know, it doesn't have a hard skin, otherwise it wouldn't be able to yield. So it's got a rubbery skin, like a balloon. And so like when you press your finger into a balloon, it sort of disappears, but the balloon springs it back out. So that's the feeling of the fabric of the body. It can give, but it stores that energy and wants to return it. Okay. And now let's just try just lifting and then just bringing the hands down. And here again, we just want to feel it. So it's basically the same as this, what we've just done, but just bringing the hands up and down. Yeah. So what we want to feel is the down. Yeah. So the down, my hands will, if I just relax them, they'll just drop. Yeah. But so what I want to do is try and get a little bit of activity. So make it a bit more active rather than just a letting go of passive thing. So what I want to do is pull the belly in to pull the hands down, like you're having to press down a lever. So here I'm having to lift a lever that's quite stiff. Then I turn my hands over and pull my belly in to bring my hands down. Yeah, so the things that are normally passive, we just want to activate them a little bit. So I'm pulling my belly in. And then this is almost like a relaxation. So it's almost like the two phases of reversed. I'm putting all the effort into the down, really contracting my down chin. And then I just relax and it sort of springs up again. Yeah. So this is like, you know, the paradox really, that we practice drawing in, we practice withdrawing and being contained and being quiet, so that we can just, when necessary, we can just relax that, and then the opposite happens. There's just a natural tendency to just come out and be compassionate. Yeah. So by being ruthless with ourselves, it's a way of being naturally compassionate with the other, rather than the other way around. Most of us are in love with ourselves and we're actually quite cruel when it comes to the other, selfish. So I pull the belly in. Yeah, so it's not just the belly that's pulling in, you can see. It's the hamstrings as well, because they're tending to want to pull you down towards the ground. Yeah, so the hamstrings and the dantian, they're really related, connected. It's really the same thing, really. Yeah, so all these places in the body that are like no-go areas, you know, the places we're sort of unaware of, they're the places we really want to look into, because that's where we tend to dump all our shit, knowing it's not going to be disturbed. You know? So the hamstrings, especially lower back, we spend a lot of time on the lower back and the sacrum, and the dantian. You know? So the lower belly, beneath the gut, really. So, you know, the sort of lower diaphragm. Yeah, so you just keep on repeating until you've made this organic machine that's driven by passion rather than mind. Yeah. So it's like you're sort of becoming angry, yeah, becoming an animal. Yeah, so if you had like a difficult physical task to do, you know, you'd sort of psych yourself up. You'd make yourself this sort of impassioned animal, and then you'd just be able to do a better job. It's the same thing here. But we get to that state through the repetition. So it's a natural thing. If you can keep your mind with it, then the energy won't disperse. It will concentrate and gradually increase until you break through into a different awareness. So, down. Okay, so now let's just let it settle without letting the mind wander. Just feel the container that you've made. It's a container that your mind just wants to settle into and be quiet and just watch and wait. Okay, and now let's just try just that little bit of just picking the foot up, but really feeling what we want to do is just really learn to appreciate the ground in its earthing capacity. That when I put the foot down, I can feel myself just wanting something in me, just wanting to pour into the foot. Yeah? Like all this excess neurotic activity just wants to disappear into the ground. It's what they say in Tai Chi, empty into the earth. Yeah, so I take my foot up, and as soon as my foot's off the ground, my balance is compromised and I'm a little bit shaky and nervous. And as soon as I put the foot down, it's not just that my balance is better, but that just removes my nervousness. The ground soaks it up. Yeah, so the earth is just endlessly compassionate. It listens and it just takes all the shit you give it. Although the earth is pretty much at breaking point when it comes to human beings. But personally, you know, you can just use it as this sink. Yeah, so I'm not just moving onto the foot and settling on it, I'm being sucked into the ground. Yeah, so there's always the two elements. I'm being sucked down, at the same time I'm building myself up from it. So just feel the click when the foot comes off the ground. And then just feel the, whoa, the relief when it goes back down. Ooh. Yeah, so if you can just be with the earth as it soaks you up, then you really do build up from the ground rather than from your hips. Okay, and then just back. Okay, so what that does, it just makes you round. Yeah, so you just feel like this round ball that's just been rocking side to side. Yeah, so think of, you know, like the other martial arts, you know, like judo and stuff. One of the first things they have to learn is how to roll. You know, so when a person throws them, they have to learn to just let that throw roll them, otherwise they'll hurt themselves. And so by just letting the body roll, they really just get a sense of the body being centered in the center and the body as one unit, yeah? And the head just having to let go and just let it happen rather than anxiously try and latch onto the room. So there's no elements of that in Tai Chi, but it's actually really important, yeah? If you want your body to move with spirit, yeah? So the problem with Tai Chi is, you know, it's slow. And so the spirit is just sort of low key. I think one of the most instructive experiences I ever had at the center, the Tai Chi center, was someone else was teaching the class and I was like an assistant, and there were just too many people for the room. So I think it was Mac. He said to me, "Can you take 5 or 6 upstairs into the green room and work with them there?" So I said, "Sure." So I took them up and I went into the green room and John was in there and he was doing something. I don't know what it was, but it was quick, yeah? And it was just so full of life, yeah? And just really, it's probably Bagua, really, you know, tight and lively, yeah? So much better than the Tai Chi. And so that stayed with me, that sort of image of someone just moving with spirit, you know, lightly, gracefully, yeah? Joyfully. Okay, now let's just crouch down. So the reason we do this one really is just to feel just to feel the ground with the hands. So when I put my hands on the ground will earth the activity through my arms as well as my feet. So I think one of the problems with human beings, one of the reasons we became so sort of obnoxiously self-centered, is that we stood up, we brought our front feet, our hands off the ground. So the ground was no longer just earthing that mind energy from the heart and from the head. So here you just want to feel the earth just soaking up that neurotic energy. So something in you, something in your mind can just relax in a way it can't when your hands are not on the floor. You just want to get some appreciation of that. Yeah, so the mind sort of slows down. It sort of goes into sort of geological time, sort of, you know, earth time, rock time. And so we just want to develop the mind as like a site of mood. So the mind becomes very sensitive to mood and atmosphere and energy, rather than being just a place of thinking. Because when it's thinking to itself, it's completely oblivious of anything else, basically. And another good thing for earthing you, for sort of just draining you of sort of that sort of bad feelings, really, is water, like taking a shower. And it does the same thing, really, but it's just sort of all over. You're just getting this electrical drain from the body. And then just bringing some weight into the arms and just letting the arms just become strong. So the arms become an arch, and the keystone of the arch, the top of the arch, is just your spine between the shoulders. So just feel that. And just feel the pull of gravity on your heart. So imagine a dog, you know, it's got like a really big chest cavity and like really slim around its back hips. And so just feel the earth pulling at your heart. Imagine if you stayed like this a long time, your chest would just deepen. And just feel the physical stress in bearing your weight over the arms. Yeah, it just brings attention into everything that you're doing. So you just have to be more conscious, more aware of the breathing, of where your weight is, of the muscles that are working. You can't be careless when things get difficult. And then just slowly rock back and just feel the legs filling up and feel the heel go down. And it's like you sort of disappear into the heels. Part of you becomes subterranean. And the back really takes just a very simple curve. the same curve it had when you were a fetus. And so remember, John, in the first lessons, used to try and get people into sort of natural, shapeless movement. So, you just want to be like the baby in the womb. It's just moving with the movements of the mother. It's not doing anything clever. Yeah. Just feel the min meng just squeezing back. And the tail just naturally coming under. And it's almost like the tail coming under is what comes up into the eyes. So the spirit in the eyes is from the tail. Okay, now let's just try again. So just put that, as soon as the hands touch the ground, just feel it. It's like a sense of relief. Ooh. So we just want to really let the earth support us. So a lot of modern anxiety, is just because we're lonely, really, and we just feel that we just don't have support. And so just feel that it's always there, it's beneath you. And then just rocking forwards again. And just slowly feel the arch of the arms filling up with strength from the ground. Yes, and Nitsan starts his classes now with a handstand, against a wall or someone holding you up. So you're not a free handstand. So the arms, they just have to get into sort of being a little bit like legs, the same way that we want the legs to become like arms. Okay, so let's come back up. So now just feeling the ward off, the sort of riding horse. So just feel how what we've just done has just changed the mood. Yeah. So we just become stony. Yeah. Yeah, so we don't want to sort of, when we finish something, it's not this sense of, oh, thank God for that, that's over. Now I can go back to being the arsehole I normally am. Yeah, it's like we just want to linger, yeah? to feel that energy just there and slowly dispersing, to leave yourself sort of cleansed in some way. Yeah, and now just try and just feel the hamstrings. It really needs to be practiced, the hamstrings. You really need to just practice and just trial and error, just find out what you have to do with the mind to just make the hamstrings tighten just a shade. They don't have to become rock hard, because that's the correct sort of ruthlessness that we need, not with the world, but with ourselves. Yeah. So there's a sense that my hamstrings are always contracting just to maintain some tone, like the guitar string that needs to be tight. Yeah. And it's really all the way down. So from the glute, so the glute melts into the hamstring and the calf melts into the hamstring. So it's really all the way down from my sacrum. There's like a cord that passes down the back of my leg to down the Achilles tendon and underneath. So I just want that to be sort of active and tight a little bit. And it's related to this, so this needs to be toned as well, otherwise it won't happen. And then there's like a sense you could just almost stand like this forever, yeah? You don't get whingy anymore. Yeah, so my hamstrings are tightening to draw my lower back down into the back of the legs, and my quads are tightening to keep me up. Yeah, so the two muscles are sort of tussling. There's this sort of, they're just playing with each other. Yeah, so normally, we think of the muscle, one side of the bone tenses. Yeah, so my bicep tenses and that pulls my hand up, and then my tricep tenses and that pulls the hand down. So that's just a very mechanical way of thinking about it. That's what we want to get away from. So instead, we just want to feel these two muscles just toned and working all the time. And the balance just shifts to get a movement. Because when if I tense the bicep whilst this still has tone in it, the quality of the movement is quite different. It's like got a seriousness and it's got energy, it's got power. So it's like the form, when we do the form, we just imagine that we're pushing against some resistance. The movement's not easy. I really have to mean it to actually get myself through it. And then the activity is just making you burn a little bit inside. So it's spirit. It's the most important thing. And basically, you've got there when you start shaking. If you're not shaking, then you're not working, or basically your mind's not there, yeah? It's that concentration of a body working well and a mind that's really gripping it, that gets the spirit shaking the body. And so I just think of it as waking up the libido. So you can think of the libido either as sexual energy, which has its limitations, or just the energy of the id, of the unconscious. So what we think we are, our sort of world, the world that we know and that we're familiar with, is just a tiny, tiny subset of what we are. So we're just trying to just sort of expose a little bit of that, get some, it's not like it's got features, it's not like it's got more things in it. It's just got different energies, different moods, I remember reading about Arnold, Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was like the first one really to start taking the modern steroids. So he just blew up like a balloon. His best friend at the gym in Austria was a doctor who got him the best steroids available. But when he started competing, he had this enormous upper body, but he had no carbs. So he just looked a little bit silly, because he didn't have the ground. And he said, then it got serious when he realized he had to work on his calves and his hamstrings, which is just difficult. This is all enjoyable, working on this. So he was doing 1,000 calf raises a day. And then when they start to get meaty and big, the calves and the hamstrings, you just look serious. There's a gravitas to the physique as well as a spectacular size. So a depth. But it just needs a different mind, a mind that just works without complaining about it. Okay, let's just try a few turnings just to loosen it up. Again, just feel the movement continuous, mind continuous, like it's maintained by elastic tension all the time. So developing the sort of awareness in the hamstrings is just key to being able to just sort of have that elastic continuity through time. Like you're being pulled through time rather than just merrily plodding along. So time will take you. Time wants to pull you with it, but you need to pull against it a little bit just to activate that pull. So it's the same with the hamstrings. The hamstrings are pulling so that the quads have to work a little bit harder than they normally do. And that just produces that sort of elastic springiness in the legs that we need for when we move side to side. And so feel the hamstring stretching, and then it just recoils back. But we just control the recoil. Yeah. Yeah, so it doesn't matter what you're doing. It's all life. It's all part and parcel. I remember reading in The Guardian years ago about the training that the SAS undergo. And they're saying, you know, they're taken on like a night hike, 20-mile hike through the Brecon Beacons in the cold with like a 100-pound rucksack on their back. And they're told, okay, where we get to where we're going, there's going to be trucks there to take us back. And then, of course, when they get there, the trucks aren't there and they're told, oh, sorry, they didn't come. We're going to have to walk back. Yeah. So it's those that just accept the return, yeah, as just being, that's what comes next. Yeah. They're the ones that get through the training. Yeah. It's not the ones that start complaining. Adyashanti, you know, the sort of the Zen enlightened master, the American. You know, he got Bell's palsy, you know, so he became really sick. Yeah, and everyone was saying, oh, you know, if you're an enlightened master, you know, you should. Is it the work that you've done that's made you sick? And he just said, it doesn't matter. This is the next thing for me. This is what I have to contend with now. Yeah, it's no big deal. Yeah. So my hamstring tightens and this side of my dantian tightens. Yeah, so why do we suffer? Yeah. We suffer because we think we are entitled to things that we are not. Yeah. So you're not entitled to anything. Yeah. Even the next breath you have to work for. Okay. Just back to this. So just feel that, that this circularity now, because we've worked on this one. And just again, just feel the buttocks melting into the hamstrings. So that is key to actually just being able to withdraw the ego, withdraw your front centers and let your back centers open up into energy. Yeah, so these centers, they're all drawing in, and then the centers at the back are issuing. So there's a sense that on a physical level, you're sort of shrinking in and reducing, but on an energetic level, you're coming out and expanding. And they both, you can only expand energetically if you withdraw the self. And then just stepping up. Yeah, so just how straight can you make the legs without them being straight, with them still with this sense of the hamstrings trying to bend them. Yeah, just remember that whatever we do physically, we do it in order to develop the right mood in the mind. The mind is a place of mood, not thinking. And you just want to be sort of, just master of mood. Like the octopus, yeah. And one of the amazing things about the octopus, just the way it changes color, yeah, to suit its mood. Yeah. So it's a bit like that. You can sort of just tighten somewhere in the mind and you'll change color. Okay.